Our village was surrounded by greenery and fields. Everyone knew everyone else. The lanes were narrow, but every corner was filled with children's laughter and the soft conversations of the elders. I was the eldest among 4 siblings, 2 younger brothers, Zubair and Farhan, and my sister Rizana, who was older than me. Our family's financial condition was modest. Abu worked as a compounder at a nearby clinic, and Ami took care of the house completely. When Abu came home from work, he would either advise us or scold us, and Ami always tried to calm things down. I had been mischievous since childhood, getting into fights at school, quarreling while playing with friends. It was all part of my routine. Time passed. I grew up, finished school, went to college, and finally graduated. But now, the responsibility of supporting the family was on my shoulders. I needed a job, quickly. I applied to several places in the village and nearby towns, but no one replied. One day, Abu came home looking tired but with a strange calmness on his face. He said, "Zishan, one of my acquaintances needs someone for the night shift at his medical store. I mentioned you, and he said you could come tomorrow." I agreed right away. The next morning, Abu woke me up early. I took a bath and wore the nice clothes Ami had stitched for me on Eid. Before I left, she prayed for me. Then Abu and I set out for the store. Dewdrops sparkled on the fields as we walked, and the air was slightly cool. When we reached the shop, I saw it for the first time. The signboard was green, a wooden bench stood outside, and a dim light glowed from within. The owner sat inside, a middle-aged man, wheatish complexion, with a thick mustache and a stern expression. His eyes reflected both seriousness and experience. He looked at me and Abu and said, "The work is during the night, from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. If you agree, you can start tonight. The salary will be 15,000. I nodded. Abu placed his hand on my shoulder and said, "Whatever work you do, do it with honesty." When we returned home, I told Ami everything. Ami was happy. I woke up around 4 in the evening. She served me tea and paratha. I quickly changed my clothes and left for the store at 5. As I stepped inside the shop for the first time, the atmosphere felt strange, a bit eerie. I told myself, it's just the first day. Everything will be fine. Inside, there was a counter and 3 shelves neatly stacked with medicines. A clock hung on the wall, and a fan in the corner hummed softly. The owner stayed with me till 8 p.m., explaining the names of medicines and their uses. After that, he left. I was alone. Outside, the cold night breeze blew gently, and silence spread all around. A few customers came till midnight, and then, complete quiet. I sat behind the counter, half drowsy, writing the day's notes in my diary. Around 3 a.m., I noticed a strange shadow on the road outside the store. It was tall, white, and still. As it moved closer, I realized this wasn't an ordinary person. It stopped right in front of the shop. In the thick silence, I softly asked, "Do you need any medicine?" No reply. It slipped a hand into its pocket and placed a plain sheet of paper on the counter. I picked it up, but there was nothing written on it. As I raised my eyes, it was gone. My hands trembled with fear. Then I heard a faint sound from inside the shop. Something had moved. The clink of a pen dropping echoed nearby. I turned around. Nothing. But that same white figure was there again, standing, as if it had always been part of that place. The next morning, the owner arrived and asked, "Zishan, why are you sitting on the floor? What's happened to you?" I couldn't speak a word. Later, the doctor told me I'd been in high fever and shock for 3 days. That first night shift at the store had changed me completely. At 6 p.m., the shop opened again. A few customers came, an old woman buying sleeping pills, a boy asking for ointment for his injured hand, and a farmer buying medicine for his wife's fever. Everything seemed normal till 10 p.m. But after midnight, the same eerie silence took over the store. The faint whir of the fan and the ticking of the wall clock suddenly began to sound terrifying. The ticking of the clock and the soft hum of the fan began to sound terrifying. I sat behind the counter, my eyes half closed, whispering to myself, "Everything's fine. There's nothing to be afraid of." But my heart disagreed. Around 2 a.m., I let out a cold sigh. In the silence, a faint sound echoed in my ears. I looked outside. On the road, there was a dim shadow. It was tall, white, and completely still. At first, I thought it was just a passerby, maybe someone waiting for someone. But as it moved closer, I realized it wasn't human. Its movement was soundless, almost floating in the air. There were no eyes, no nose, no lips, no beard, just a smooth, pale surface where a face should have been. I stammered softly, "Is it fever, pain? Do you need medicine?" No response. It slowly slipped a hand into its pocket and placed a plain white sheet of paper on the counter. I picked it up. It was blank, completely empty. As I raised my eyes, the figure was gone. My heartbeat raced out of control. I quickly shut the door and bolted it. But then, a faint rustling sound came from inside. Something fell, the sound of a pen hitting the floor. I turned sharply. No one. And then, that same white shadow stood again, near the counter. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. It took one step forward, just one, but it froze my spine like ice. I was backed against the wall, barely able to move. Around 3:30 in the morning, I could only hear two sounds: my heartbeat and my breath echoing in my ears. I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. And just as I gathered a little courage, the shadow slowly stepped back and vanished. At 6 a.m., the owner came in. Seeing me, he looked shocked. "Zishan, why do you look so terrified?" he asked. I couldn't utter a word. He helped me sit and said quietly, "Sometimes in the night, something appears that only you can see." The doctor later advised me to rest for 3 days. But that face, that blank white surface, and that empty piece of paper, I could never forget them. After recovering from fever and shock, Zishan made up his mind. He wanted to uncover the mystery behind that white shadow. His nights were still restless. Every night, at 3 a.m., he would open his eyes and... Every night, Zishan would find himself staring at his room's door, afraid it might open, afraid that the shadow might return. He kept wondering, was it really a jinn, or some other presence that only appeared to those who stayed awake through the night? But every time he remembered that night, a strange chill ran through his heart, and he couldn't stop thinking about it. One evening, he decided to talk to the elders and wise men of the village about what had happened. He went to his sister, Ruzana, and told her everything. Ruzana listened quietly, then said, "Brother, this isn't an ordinary incident. Things like this have happened before in our village. Maybe it's a spiritual presence, and it has chosen you." The next day, Zishan went to meet an old village elder, Mayan Sahib. Mayan Sahib spoke in a deep, serious voice. "Zishan, my son, what you saw was meant only for you. Some entities appear only before certain chosen people. Sometimes they come to warn us. Sometimes to make us realize something." Zishan felt a little calmer after hearing those words, but his mind was still crowded with questions. He decided he would go back to the medical store at night alone and try to face that experience again. All day, he planned carefully. He visualized every corner of the shop, preparing himself mentally for the night. At 6 p.m., he reached the store. The owner handed him the keys and said with a smile, "Check the new medicines, okay?" Zishan gathered his courage and went inside. The night grew darker. After midnight, silence filled the shop once again. The fan hummed softly, and the ticking clock echoed faintly. But Zishan's eyes kept scanning every corner. Then, the white shadow appeared again. But this time, something was different. The shadow slowly moved closer to the counter and stopped. Zishan could feel this wasn't an ordinary spirit. The figure raised its hand, pointing toward the table, signaling him to pick up the piece of paper lying there. With trembling hands, Zishan lifted the paper. This time, it wasn't blank. There were markings, strange numbers and symbols drawn across it. Mayan Sahib's words echoed in his mind. Sometimes they give signs. Signs that show you the way. Zishan studied the paper carefully. The symbols seemed connected to the name and dosage of an old medicine. And then, he understood. This shadow was not trying to scare him, it was trying to tell him something. It was frightening, yes, but its intentions were not evil. It seemed to be giving a warning and guidance about something important. For the next few weeks, Zishan kept seeing the same white shadow every night. Each time, it brought something new information, a new medicine, or a quiet warning. Gradually, Zishan began to take it as a lesson, an experience meant only for him. But one night, he noticed something strange. The shadow wasn't just watching him, it was also looking at the old records and papers in the shop, as if it were guarding the place, watching over its safety and order. That experience taught Zishan something profound. Fear and mystery don't always come to scare us. Sometimes they come to teach, to warn, to guide. He spent many nights alone after that. Every night, the same white shadow appeared, each time leaving behind a new sign, a new understanding. Slowly, Zishan realized that this presence wasn't evil at all. It was a guide, a silent guardian. One night, when everything seemed calm, the shadow appeared again, clearer, stronger, almost glowing. It stood silently in front of the counter. Zishan gathered his courage and asked softly, "Who are you? Why do you always come to me?" There was no reply, only a faint shimmer on the smooth white surface of its face. Then, the shadow slowly raised its hand and pointed toward the back room of the store. Zishan took a deep breath and walked toward it. Behind the old medicine shelves, he discovered an old diary and a bundle of handwritten notes. Inside the diary were records, stories and warnings from years ago. It revealed that the same white shadow had appeared to others before him, those who had worked the night shift in the store. Some had quit out of fear, while others had learned from it and improved their work. Zishan finally understood. The shadow was a symbol of protection and wisdom. It appeared only to those who worked through the night with honesty and responsibility. Behind fear and mystery, there is often a hidden message, a lesson, a guidance. In the following weeks, Zishan fulfilled his duties with complete sincerity. The store ran perfectly, and the owner was pleased. But he never told Zishan one thing. That long before Zishan came, every night worker who had ever worked in that store had seen the same white shadow. No one ever knew who, or what, used to come there at night. Gradually, the white shadow began to appear less and less. Zishan realized that his lesson was complete. The shadow's test was over. His fear, his mystery, had now turned into memory and experience. Zishan accepted it as a lesson of his life, that the silence of the night, fear, and mystery are not always challenges meant to break us. Sometimes, they come to make us stronger, wiser. Time passed. The store eventually shut down. But Zishan never forgot those nights. Even now, whenever he looked toward his room's door, he would remember. Some mysteries never truly leave us. They stay hidden in our lives, quietly teaching us the meaning of honesty, strength, and faith.